I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show, we have back with us Don Norbury, the head of studio at Shrapnel Game. Don, welcome back to the show. It is a pleasure to see you again.
Thanks, Ashton. Pleasure to be back.
I'm excited to dive into the latest updates for Shrapnel. I know this is a huge, amazing game that is a long process to get it out, but it is, I think, one of the most exciting releases for games in Web3. I'm personally excited about. It's going to be hard to match what I think that your team is building. I would love to just start from the top for those who haven't seen our previous interviews and aren't familiar with Shrapnel. If you could just talk a little bit about what is Shrapnel the game, and then we'll dive into all the latest details.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Shrapnel is an FPS extraction shooter. So, a type of game similar to something like Escape from Tarkov, where you got to get in and get out with your stuff, high stakes treasure hunting. And then kind of surrounding it is a set of UGC tools. So people can make their brand, build maps, build their own insignias, build weapon skins, of course, publish them, own them, equip them, but also trade them.
Very cool. And with FPSs, some of the greatest, most popular games in the world have been FPS games. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in building an FPS and how to build a great game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've built a few of them. I think BioShock was probably the one I get the most attention for. Our entire team has history and pedigree in building FPS games. They are one of the hardest to build for a number of design and technical reasons, but we've certainly kind of tread that territory before. We saw extraction shooter as sort of the next space, the next kind of evergreen design space to get into. We felt like Battle Royale has, there's still plenty to explore there. It's certainly like a lot of people still enjoy it. There's something visceral and amazing about it, but we wanted to get into extraction, and especially kind of saw it married with digital ownership, with kind of building with a blockchain economy from the ground up as being just a natural marriage, especially when you bring in the ability for people to create their own stuff.
That's exciting. I want to dive into that a little bit, but I saw the trailer and I want to talk about that after, but can you talk a little bit more about the world that you're in and like sort of the dystopian backsetting of the story? Because I know it's really interesting, and I feel like that's why a lot of people love this game.
Yeah, I would say the founding team. We all came out of HBO, and of course we'd all been through the ringers at Lucasfilm and Xbox and Take-Two and whatnot. But I think our HBO meeting is where we all worked intimately with each other and closely with each other. And of course, HBO is all about narrative, world building, telling a story, being invested in character. So we had a lot of that juice coming out of HBO and forming Neon and building Shrapnel. So we spent a lot of time with that world building. The premise of Shrapnel is that it's kind of near future, so it's not super future. We're not talking hundreds of years in the future. We're talking like 15 to 20 years in the future. And basically, asteroid mining had become a thing. We're kind of at the cusp of that already. You can see interest in that. There's good reason. There's tons of valuable resources on asteroids, right? They're kind of like the next frontier in terms of getting those resources. So it's that industry had kind of spun up, and a catastrophic event happens, and basically the moon gets hit. An asteroid hits the moon, and then it in turn rains shrapnel down on the Earth, which is where the actual name for the game comes from. Most people, it's a little subversive. Most people are like, oh, it's a military shooter, shrapnel, right? You got a shrapnel grenade or whatever. Like, no, it's actually, the moon raining down the shrapnel on the Earth. As this happens, of course, there's valuable minerals, valuable elements all over the Earth. This is all coming down. It's not just pieces of the moon, it's pieces of the asteroid. And so these different companies and government organizations go to actually extract that, and they find that there's something else in there, a thing we call compound sigma, that has powerful effects, I guess is the best way to put it. And it becomes effectively this conflict mineral, and it changes the geopolitical landscape of the entire Earth. and becomes extremely militarized because of how powerful and precious it is. So you play as one of the extraction operators, effectively operating on your own, being hired by people to go in, get Sigma, and bring it out. And of course, you're looting and shooting all along the way.
Wow. Thank you so much, Don, for explaining that, because I just feel like it adds so much more, for me personally, interest in the kind of extraction, sort of the world you're set in, versus just a battle royale where it's like, I shoot you, you shoot me, It's just, I'm just
why are we
working on
here?
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's super cool setting. So I'm personally very excited about it. And I want to talk a little bit about the development. I know your team has been going through this for multiple years. We've had you and your team on the show multiple times now, and you're getting closer and closer to the next stages. Can you talk about developing the game and how developing Shrapnel has been different from games in the past? Whether it's just the Web3 aspect or the community involvement in actually seeing what the community wants as you're building it out?
Yeah, I would say, when we first talked, and certainly when we founded the company, we were 6 people. Internally, we're about 70 now, almost 70. And if you include external kind of partner development, we're probably closer to like 150 or something like that. Wow. So, we're definitely at full kind of production throttle right now. In terms of the differences, I would say the similarities are just the game development part, right? Most of our studio, or I would say a good chunk, maybe 75% of the studio, come from veteran game development. We've all, I've been doing it almost 20 years. A lot of people are in that exact same boat, some even longer. So we understand that to make something quality, you have to throw it in there, not be married to it. You got to play with it, see what works, see what doesn't. It's not until you feel it that if it's really going to work or what parts are going to work and what needs to be modified along the way to actually achieve the feeling and the magic that you want. So, that part of it is the same as what you would do in any other game to find the fun, make it a sticky game, and all of those pieces. Certainly, the other 25% of that is our blockchain team, and we've been extremely lucky to get some top blockchain development talent, right? Mark Mercuri, who's kind of the head of our entire platform side of our organization, comes from Consensus. And before that, he was the head of blockchain for Microsoft. So he completely changed our entire landscape of what we thought we were going to do, right? We were very much starting to partner with all these different platforms and technologies. And he came in and was like, oh, no, we can do that plus all of these other things. And by the way, similar to how kind of Epic Games made Unreal Engine to make Unreal Tournament, we're going to build a platform to make Shrapnel that then we can make as many games as we want, and wow. To the point where we're even kind of getting the attention and starting to interact with other game studios who want to use our technology. So it's been a journey of doing what you think, knowing what you need to do, doing what you think you can, and then that usually you have to reel back. This has been one of those glorious cases where we just shot to the moon for what our expectations were on kind of the blockchain side.
Wow, that's super cool. Great to have an experienced team. And I did see some recent news about a GameBridge Web3 developer platform. Is that what you're talking about? Where you can make, I don't know, mini games, or you could build anything that's sort of within the Shrapnel ecosystem?
Yeah, it's not just Shrapnel ecosystem. So GameBridge is exactly what I'm talking about. It allows you, the best way to describe it, I would say, is if you're familiar with something like Xbox Live or PlayFab for game developers, that'll make sense, which is these are these platforms that allow you to accomplish things very quickly in a very familiar way for game developers, right? So we think about how we think about the itemization in the game, how it gets reflected on a back-end service, what player services look like, accounts, monetization, inventory, those sorts of things all have these kind of back-end platform service support to them. So it's basically what if you had that with a blockchain potential to it. It doesn't all have to be blockchain, right? But parts of it can be blockchain. We built it in a way where it's extremely malleable, depending on the partners you want to use, the individual, technology partners, parts that you want to build your own. It sort of allows you to mix and match and plug things together based on how the tech stack and the tech layers work. So really, it's much more like, and a lot to the point where a bunch of the proof of concepts that we've done for other games, even internally as we were going through the process, have nothing to do with a Shrapnel type of game, right? We've taken like like an island builder, or almost like a fashion customization game, like these sorts of things that could be on mobile, could be far more casual, etc. Just so that there were proof of concept use cases that used our tech stack and kind of show that, yep, it works for that. Like, let's make sure this isn't just for Shrapnel, even though that's what our laser focus is right now, that it is malleable for all of these other use cases.
That's super interesting. And I'm curious on how that came about, because as you're developing Shrapnel, obviously you need some kind of engine to build everything out. And like, it's a whole nother shift in the mindset when you're trying to incorporate Web3 and sort of build the building blocks of the game. You realize that you needed to build the GameBridge to sort of build Shrapnel, and then you're like, hey, this is a whole nother business model in itself, and we can expand this out to the future of gaming? Or, was that always in the mindset of like, we're going to build an engine and the game?
It was definitely not initially in our mindset. We were 100% focused on Shrapnel, just as a game and an experience, the world, the gameplay, the like user-generated tools and the market and everything. This kind of was a result, again, of getting very lucky with the talent that we were able to attract and just completely changing our altitude of what we could do with not just like very little tax, like almost no tax on the actual development of Shrapnel. It's just a natural evolution of having extremely talented senior people who think that way, right? And just architected it that way from the get-go.
Wow, no, that's incredible. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because it really opens up into more of a platform play that, some of the biggest games in the world, like Minecraft and these things, where they actually have that customizability, or people are able to sort of create their own from the inner workings of what came out of Shrapnel. I'm excited to see that. And I want to jump into the blockchain Web3 part a little bit more on the Shrapnel game. I'm guessing that all the items are NFTs, and potentially you can take them out of the game and trade them in real world, or how exactly do you see the best part of the functionality in enhancing the experience of being in Shrapnel?
Yeah, you nailed a lot of it right there, which is the digital ownership, and of course that has a different strata of what the different NFT types are. To like stay in the blockchain vernacular, we're very careful. It's like my brain short circuits a little when I'm talking about Shrapnel product stuff to the players and the community. We use completely different verbiage, right? We're trying to steer away from like the technical underpinnings of things and just talk about what it means to people. But like certainly in that space, thinking about it internally, we've got weapons and equipment, and then of course we have all the stuff that you can customize as a user, as a player, skins, insignias, the maps themselves, and those kind of have different amounts of, what's the best way to put it, like fungibility, effectively, right? Like there's lots of weapons and equipment in the game. That stuff comes from us. Of course, you own like everything. But of course, the stuff that you make, you actually own the IP for as well, right? You're giving Shrapnel license to use it in the game, but it's not just yours like a gun is that you loot in the game, but we actually own the IP because we made it. The stuff that you make is actually your IP. So we're being very careful with the differentiation between all of those pieces, and making it so like it's as meaningful as possible, because that's really what all this is about, right? Like there's a fundamental layer that blockchain enables, these transactions, ownership, etc., making it like genuinely meaningful from a human perspective and an ownership perspective is a lot of what our focus and target is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think people will really love that, and people don't really think about it too much, because I'm guessing you're not trying to make it too overly complicated this is for, the gaming industry is just so much bigger than the blockchain industry, and it's a great advancement to add value to the game, but it shouldn't be the main focus. Obviously the game and the gameplay should be the main focus. I'm curious on how you sort of manage all that. I'm guessing it's all in the back end. Maybe people will see that they have a wallet, or they're able to sort of move items out into a marketplace, but really keeping the feel of like you're playing the game, not to distract, like you're opening your bank account on the side and doing different things that distract you from actually the actual gameplay.
Yeah. It's in game development. We're all about eliminating friction whenever possible, right? Like, there are times you introduce purposeful friction, right? Time barriers or things, et cetera, but they need to be purposeful for the actual gameplay you're trying to achieve. They shouldn't be, having linking a non-custodial wallet if you don't care about that sort of thing. Like, to that vein, and this is part of GameBridge as well, which is having a custodial wallet behind an account, having an account service. This is all like very familiar territory for a Shrapnel player when they jump in. They're just creating an account, like grabbing, the executable, downloading it, jumping in, and then shooting people, right? And getting in and like looting stuff as quickly as humanly possible. All of that other stuff they don't have to worry about. Now, as the affordances increase, as you're looking to engage more with the ecosystem, then there starts to be, kind of like more policy walls, like regulatory walls, because these are genuine digital assets, right? They have actual ownership. It's not some service-based wall like most companies have. There are implications if you're suddenly like making stuff, you're a prolific creator, and you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of assets. Like, there are ownership and tax implications and everything around that. And at that point, we have to have stronger kind of regulatory walls around what people can do, knowing who they are, for all of the like obvious legal reasons. But for a lot of people, like, they're never going to encounter any of that, right? They're going to hop in, they're going to play the game. And we try, we have a number of personas that we've kind of broken out of. These are the people who are involved in the Shrapnel ecosystem. And we try to make sure that we account for all of them, every step of like, not just the game, but how they engage with the marketplace and the creator tools and everything.
Very cool, Don. And the last time that you were on the show, it was around the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, and that's around the time when the trailer for Shrapnel was coming out. I'm curious, post that interview, could you talk about the feedback that the growing community from Shrapnel saw in the trailer, and then how did you guys take that moving forward? And after that, what have you guys sort of done since then, leading up to now?
Yeah, for sure. So following that trailer, we actually had a playable at GDC, at the Game Developers Conference, with a ton of people that came by. It was a little bit private. It was invite only. We thought you never know with those sorts of things how much interest you're going to get. It was 100% booked from like Monday to Friday through the entire thing. And then it ended up being standing room only. Like, of course, you add ad hoc people hear about it. And it started becoming this thing where we were in, you're in elevators or walking down the street. And of course, we're all in Shrapnel swag the entire time. And we'd start having just random people notice us. Be like, Shrapnel, I've been hearing about it at the show and yada, yada. And like, can I come check it out and play? So it went from you never know how those things are going to turn out to we sort of ended up as this like playable gem at the show to a certain degree. So then we took that build and improved it a bit. This is a show curated build. It was something that can be effectively played in about 10 minutes, simplify everything so that people can actually pick up and have fun. A lot of times we did end up having people play multiple sessions. Some of the groups were like really into it and screaming and yelling by the end. But so we took that a slightly improved version of that build to consensus because that's open show floor situation. So now no longer invite only. Now anybody who's at the show can walk up and play. Got a lot of great feedback, a lot of great comments based on that experience. And that's a completely different audience, right? Like half of those people are like, is this Halo? What am I looking at here? Yeah. So it was great to get this overwhelmingly positive feedback, kind of, and to watch people play and get this proof positive that the game we know that we've been designing and playing in private, really here at the studio, is actually something that's going to sing. So of course, at the same time as we're doing that, we're in parallel development with the core game, so the full feature set, all of the systems, much bigger map spaces, like that sort of stuff. And that's kind of like takes us to today where we're at, from kind of the release of that trailer to how we're now teeing up to effectively get people into early access at the end of this year, so that when you can actually download the game, and there's going to be like different announcements about how people can get into early access aside from kind of our operator holders and stuff like that who are already in that circle. But to get people to start playing that full game, and to over the course of the following months to basically slowly roll it out to the community, increased features, increase the audience over time to actually get in and do it responsibly.
Wow, that's incredible to hear. Whenever you're the talk of the conference, it's usually a very good sign. And I've seen the online communities for Shrapnel. I know that they've been raving about it, so I'm not surprised that it was a hit in person as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to waiting for that part when I'm able to play the early access for it as well. With the community, I know you guys have had like fanatics for like years now, and I'm sure that just as at the conference, people hear about it, they see this video, and they're like, I want to make sure that I have access to check it out and get the early perks and stuff. Where's the main place where the major fans are right now? And then is there ways for them to get involved or make sure that they don't miss out on the steps leading up to that access?
Yeah, I mean, Discord is the best place for to the second communication for sure, right? We're very active on Twitter as well. Our website is migrating from what I would say an informational site to a major like action hub for the actual Shrapnel as an ecosystem. So, stuff that's on there already, like our insignia tool, where you can go on, as long as you have an account, you can get in there and actually start like playing with the insignia editor and creating your own brand. And we've had a ton of community, like amazing stuff that people have created that just blows my mind of what they've been able to do with our tools thus far. So that is going to be the primary hub where people go in and do that sort of thing, engage in the marketplace, like find out what the actual like latest news and community stuff is. Discord is still to the second. Our entire team's in there, not just like our Marcom team and kind of like PR and Discord teams, but our entire studio is basically in Discord. So that's where we're having much more lively to the second involved conversations with the community. And especially, like you said, there's been some people who are just like super excited from the very beginning. We try to give them a spotlight and certainly like take a lot of their feedback very closely to heart, because it's not just kind of a whimsical sweep through. Like, these people have been paying close attention to what we've been doing, and their feedback's usually like very good and on point.
That's great to hear. I can leave the link to the Discord and the site as it gets updated, and the player in the notes below as well. I really appreciate taking the time, Don, out of the busy schedule and building Shrapnel and the future of Web3 gaming. It's super exciting. I'm going to be following along. Let's definitely follow up, just before that early access release, so that we can, talk about the release and make sure that all of our viewers don't miss playing it on day one as well, because I'm super excited. I know they probably are as well.
For sure. And I mean, we'll be, even before that early access release, we'll have, we have call signs already. We'll be launching our marketplace. People with the insignia will be able to publish, to like blockchain publish their actual insignias for like ownership, trading, and equipping. So we have like a ton of product beats effectively leading up to that early access. By the time we get to that point, people will have been in there like playing with a bunch of stuff already. So it's going to be a very full next set of months that lead to the holiday timeframe.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for the time, Don. All the best with Shrapnel moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thanks, Ashton.